Good morning, students. So, in this lecture, today we'll discuss about all the exercise question and answers that are given in your textbook from the chapter number 2, Sectors of the Indian Economy, class 10, subject economics. So, this is basically a classwork that I want to share with you that you have to do in your main classbook notebooks. So I am going to discuss the answers with you which you have to write in your main notebooks. So all the questions till question number 5 you have to do in your book only, and after that from question number 6 we are starting, you have to do that in your notebook. So, and I want the same report in my mail ID also that you have done or not, and I will assign you an assignment also about this chapter, and you have to do those questions as well as the homework. So we are starting now. So first of all, we'll discuss again about question number 6 that you have to do in your main notebook, and you have to write the answer as I have written here. So question number 6 is about, do you think the classification of economic activities into primary, secondary and tertiary is useful? Explain how. So you have to classify all the economic activities here into primary, secondary and tertiary, which is useful, and you have to explain how. So the answer that you have to write here will be in points. So you can write in points also, and if you write in paragraph, that is also being considered, but as you have to attempt the exams also in board, please try to attempt all the question answers in points only. So the answer is, the classification of economic activities into primary, tertiary and secondary is useful on account of the information it provides on how and where the people of a country are employed. So basically, when we classify all the economic activities, we divide it into three categories, into primary, tertiary and secondary, wherever it is useful, and on account of the information it is being provided to them on how and where the people of the country are employed, on which sector they are employed. Are they employed in primary, tertiary or the secondary sector? So this is how it works. Then it also helps in ascertaining as to which sector of economic activity contributes more or less to the country's GDP or per capita income. So basically it helps to certain certain activities which can contribute to in which sector. So more or less it is basically for the country's GDP and for the increase in per capita income. So whatever it is doing, it is only helping the country's GDP and per capita income. Now the third point is, we can ascertain the sectoral share in the economy and government and can make policies to promote the sector contributing less to the economy. So you have to ascertain these sectors share in the economy and government, and which can make these policies to promote these sectors contributing less to the economy. Then if the tertiary sector is developing much faster than the primary sector, then it implies that agriculture is depleting. So basically they are saying that if the tertiary sector is developing very fast as more than primary sector also, it implies that agriculture is depleting. So if one sector is increasing, obviously the other sector, the primary sector, is depleting in some way or the other, and the government must take certain measures to rectify that. So it should not be like if one sector is increasing, the other sector should go down. The government should take certain steps so that the economy should be equal. The activities, all these sectors should be in an equal measure. So they can take certain measures to rectify that. Then the knowledge that the agriculture profession is becoming unpopular or regressive can only come if we know which sector it belongs to. So the knowledge that the agriculture profession is becoming unpopular or regressive can only come if we know which sector it belongs to. Then hence it is necessary to classify these economic activities into these three sectors for smooth economic administration and development. So it is necessary to classify these economic activities into three sectors for the smooth economic administration and development. Now question number 7. So question number 7 is about for each of these sectors that we came across in this chapter, why should one focus on employment and GDP? Could there be other issues which should be examined, discussed? So basically in this question they are asking all the sectors that we come across in this chapter, they are basically focusing on employment and GDP. Could there be any other issues apart from these two that we can examine, discuss? So like the answer is, for each of these sectors that we came across in this chapter, one should focus on employment and GDP because these are the two major things that determine the size of a country's economy and the condition of the economy. So here, because of these two sectors, they determine the size of the country's economy, what is the size and the condition of the economy currently. And a focus on employment and GDP helps to determine two important things. So it helps to determine two important things. First is per capita income and second is productivity. So you can write this in another point that a focus on employment GDP helps determine two important things. First is per capita income and second is productivity. So hence in each of the three sectors, employment rate and status as well as its contribution to the GDP helps us to understand how that particular sector is functioning and what needs to be done to initiate further growth in it. So basically all these three sectors helps where they help to examine the employment rate and the status and as well as its contribution to the GDP, that help us to understand how that particular sector is functioning and how it is need to be done to initiate further growth in it. And yes, there are other issues which could be examined apart from these two are, firstly we can examine balanced regional development. So as we all know that there are a number of regional things that are coming up. So there are a lot of regions and regional issues that are developing in each of their particular countries, in each of their particular states. So the development could be there as well. Equality in income and wealth among the people of the country. So equality in income and wealth among the people of the country, because majorly if we see the rural and the urban areas, they don't get certain equal number of income. So we can there is also major issue in that. Then how to eradicate poverty. So poverty is also one of the major issues in India basically, because more than half of the country is dealing with this problem, which is poverty. Poverty is the major problem here. Then modernization of technology. So this is also a main issue that technology is increasing in such a number that is causing a problem nowadays. Because of all the excessive use of all the things, the modernization of this technology is leading us to depletion of a lot of things. Then self-reliance of the country, how to achieve surplus food production in the country. So these are few of the issues that we can also take and examine if we calculate a country's economy or any economic activity, if we want to examine it. Now question number 8 was given to you about make a long list of all kinds of work that you find adults around you doing for a living. In what way you can classify them? Explain your choice. So it is basically your own choice. I can't say my own what are the things that you are going to take. So you can do it on your own. I am not going to judge you or anything. You can do this question on your own. Whatever things you want to take, whatever sectors you want to take, it's up to you. We are straight away discussing about question number 9 here. So how is the territory sector different from the other sectors? Illustrate with the few examples. So here the question is asking about the territory sectors, how it is different from the other sectors. Here we have to illustrate it with few examples. So the answer is the territory sector is different from the other two sectors. This is because the other two sectors produce goods, but this sector produces services rather than goods. So here it is being classified very simply that the other two sectors here they are producing the goods. They are in the production section. But when we talk about the territory sector, it serves the services rather than the goods. So this sector produces services rather than the goods. The activities under this sector help in the development of the primary and secondary sector. So all the activities that are there in this particular sector, it is only helping out the other two sectors, because if there will be more services, more production of these services, the demand will be more, and likewise these two will also be getting more and more production for so that they can also earn a lot of money from that. So therefore it is also known as the service sector, and these services are an aid or support for the production process. So therefore it is also known as the service sector. These sectors are an aid or support for the production process. For examples, good produced in the primary or secondary sector use transportation services for movement of goods from one place to another. So we are taking example of goods which are produced in this primary and secondary sectors. After that, the how can it come to the consumers here? So the transportation services for the movement of these goods from one place to another takes place. Banking also takes place in few of the things, because the money exchange is there, communication services are there to deal with the payment of goods, etc. So all these things work under these territory sector. Similarly, the doctors, teachers, lawyers, tailors, etc. all these come under the territory sector, as they provide services rather than material goods. So all these are providing them the services rather than material goods. And in recent times, certain new services based on information technology such as internet cafe, ATM booths, call centers, software companies, etc. have become important. So all these professional services are there, or IT services are there, ATM booths, internet cafes, call centers. What are they? All these services come under the territory sector, because they are all providing them services. So that's why there is such an increase in territory sector, because it is increased in such a number that in transportation, in professional services, and in other things also. That's why it is important. Now question number 10. What do you understand by disguised unemployment? Explain with an example, each from the urban and the rural area. So you have to understand what is this disguised in unemployment is about. So it is about disguised in unemployment is an important feature of a joint family business and a situation of underemployment in which more than the required persons are engaged in the production activity. So here it is about a feature of a basically joint family business in which a situation of an underemployed in which more than the required person are engaged in a production activity. So the limited seats are there, but they more than the number they are required, they are more persons that are engaged in that production activity. And in this, people who are visibly employed but are actually unemployed. So here it says that the people, they are visibly employed but actually they are not employed, because they are not getting as much money and they are not getting something for their living. So basically they are visibly employed but they are actually unemployed. And this situation of underemployment, where people are apparently working but all of them are made to work less than their potential. So they have certain potential, which like there is a cook who can cook a really good dishes, but he is into some mechanical department. So his potential is a waste. His work experience is a waste. He's working in such a place where he is not getting what he deserves. So this situation is also known as hidden unemployment. So that's how it works. For example, we are taking two areas from rural areas and the urban areas. In rural areas, this type of unemployment is generally found in the agriculture sector, like in a family of 9 people, all are engaged in the same agriculture plot, but if 4 people are withdrawn from it, there will be no reduction in output. So these 4 people are actually discretely employed. So it is telling about a family, a joint family, like in rural areas, people generally work under this agriculture sector. So if there is 9 people who are engaged in the same agriculture plot, 4 people withdraw themselves with no reduction in output. 4 people are actually discasually employed here. So they don't have any other work. They are visibly there, but they don't want to do that work. In urban areas, this type of unemployment can be seen mostly in the service sector, such as in the family, all members are engaged in one petty shop or a small business which can be managed by less members or person. So in urban areas, if you have a one shop only and you are living in a joint family and all the people are dependent on that shop only, many people are working in that particular shop, कभी भैया आ जाए या कभी कोई चाचा आ जाए, कोई आके बैठ जाए. So they are visibly employed, you can see them, but they are not actually employed. And it can be managed by less number of people as well. Now question number 11 is distinguish between open unemployment and disguised unemployment. So here you have to tell the difference. Answer is open unemployment is when a country's labor force does not get opportunities for adequate employment. This situation is called open unemployment. So when a country's labor force does not give them opportunities for adequate employment, this situation is called open unemployment. This type of unemployment is generally found in the industrial sector of our country, and this is also found among the landless agricultural laborers in the rural areas. And this kind of unemployment exists due to lack of resources. So this is all about the open unemployment. Now about these disguised unemployment, we have talked in the previous answer also. So this is a kind of unemployment in which there are people who are visibly employed but actually they don't have full employment. In such a situation, more people are engaged in work than required. This type of unemployment is generally found in unorganized sector where either work is not consistently available or too many people are employed for the same work they does, not required so many hands, and the absence of alternative employment opportunities leads to this situation. Now question number 12. Territory sector is not playing any significant role in the development of the Indian economy. Do you agree? Give reasons in support of your answer. So in the territory sector is not playing any significant role in the development of the Indian economy. You have to tell that if you agree or not, and you have to give reasons also. So the answer is no, I do not agree with this statement that territory sector is not playing any significant role in the development of Indian economy. Over the last 4 decades, if we see, territory sector has emerged as the largest producing sector. So it has been emerged as the largest producing sector, and the growth of in the service sector can be attributed to various factors such as need for basic services like health, education, security, finance, etc. Introduction of new services like IT, development of primary and secondary activities, increased demand for services due to increase in per capita income. The GDP share of the territory sector has grown from around 40% in 1973 to more than 50% in 2003. Until now it has been increasing to around 70%. So more than 70% of the people and the growth of the GDP is because of this tertiary sector only. Now question number 13. Service sector in India employs two different kind of people. Who are these? So basically you have to tell the service sector in India employs two kind of people. Who are these? So the service sector in India employs the following two different kind of people. They are the people involved in the services that may directly help in the production of goods. So basically the first kind of people are the services that directly helping in the production of goods. For example, people involved in the transportation, storage, communication, finance, etc. And the people who are involved in such services that may not directly help them in the production of goods or the self-employment. For example, teachers, doctors, barbers, cobblers, lawyers, etc. They may be termed as ancillary workers. Basically that means that the workers who are not particularly employed but they are helping their own self. So they have their own profession where they are working for their own self. That means who give services to these primary service providers also. Now question number 14. The workers which are exploited in the unorganized sector. Do you agree with this view? Give reasons in support of your answer. So yes, the workers are exploited in the unorganized sector. This would be clear from the following points. So you have to write it in points now that you agree. And the workers who are exploited in the unorganized sector, this would be clear from the following points. No rules and regulations are followed. For the unorganized sector, there is no such rules and regulation that they follow, and there is no fixed hours of working hours for them. The workers normally work to 10 to 12 hours without paid overtime. So they don't have any fixed time. They can work normally for 10 to 12 hours and they are not even getting paid for their overtime. They do not get other allowance apart from their daily wages. So like in organized sector, they are getting a lot of allowance like PF and all, but they are not getting any allowance apart from their daily wages. The government rules and regulations to protect the laborers are not followed there. So in unorganized sectors, there are certain government rules which have been made, but it is not being followed in the rules and regulations that have been made by the government. They are not following, and the laborers have to deal with it because they have to earn something or the other. There is no such job security which is given to them, and the jobs which are low paid, the workers in this sector are generally illiterate, ignorant and unorganized. So basically those are jobs that they are getting, these workers are getting, they are generally illiterate. They are not being focused on, they are from this SC, ST caste and OBC caste maybe, and unorganized, so they are not in a position to bargain or secure good wages. Being very poor, they are always heavy in debt, because just because they are very poor, they are always heavy in debt, so they can be easily made to accept lower wages, and social discrimination is always there with these kind of people. Now question number 15. How are the activities in the economy classified on the basis of employment condition? So on the basis of employment condition, the activities in the economy classified into organized and unorganized sectors. So it is classified into two basic sectors, organized and unorganized sector. Please write it in points only. I have written in paragraph. Please, you should write in points. I'm sorry that I have written in such a way because I didn't got much of a time to segregate them. So please, you should write in points. So I will divide the point for you. I'm just how I am saying, you should write that point accordingly. So in organized sector, first point, this sector covers those enterprises which are registered by the government and have to follow its rules and regulations which are given in the various laws such as the Factory Act, Minimum Wage Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Shops and Establishment Act, etc. So this is the first point where it says that this sector covers all the enterprises that are registered by the government in which they follow all the rules and regulations which are given in the various laws such as the Factory Act, Minimum Wage Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Shop, etc. Second point, workers in the organized sectors enjoy the security of employment. So they enjoy the security of employment. Third point, they are accepted to work only a fixed number of hours. So they are accepted to work only a fixed number of hours. Point number 4, if they work more, they have to be paid overtime by the employer. So if they are working more, they have to be paid overtime by the employer. Point number 5, they get paid leave, payment during holidays and provident funds, gratuity, etc. For example, Reliance Industries Limited, sale, etc. This is about the organized sector. Then the unorganized sector, it includes those small and chartered units which are largely outside the control of the government. Through their rules and regulations, these are never followed there. So this is the first point. In unorganized sector, it includes all the small and chartered units which are largely outside the control of the government. Through their rules and regulations, they are not much followed there. For example, casual workers in construction, shops, etc. Jobs there are low paid and often not regular. So this is the second point. Third point, there is no provision for overtime, paid leaves, holidays, leave due to sickness, etc. Fourth point, there is in this sector, there is no job security and the condition of employment are also very tough. So in this sector, there is no such job security and condition of employment is very tough. And the fifth point, people can be asked to leave without prior information or reason. So these are the classification of these two and you have to write both of them in points. Now question number 16, you have to compare the employment condition prevailing in the organized and unorganized sector. So the employment conditions prevailing in the organized and unorganized sectors are vastly different. How? Because the unorganized sector, they have companies registered with the government and hence it offers job security, paid holidays, pensions, health and other benefits, fixed hours and extra pay for overtime works. And an unorganized sector, it is host of opposites. There is no job security, no paid holidays, no pension or retirement, no benefits of provident fund or health insurance, unfixed working hours and no guarantee of a safe work environment. Question number 17, explain the objective of implementing the NREGA 2005. So the objective of implementing the NREGA 2005 are: firstly, to increase the income and employment of people. Second, every state and region can develop tourism, regional craft, IT, etc. for additional employment. Third, the central government made a law implementing the right to work in 200 districts. Fourth, NREGA aims to provide employment of 100 days. If it fails to do so, it will give unemployment allowance to the people. So these were it. Then question number 19, you don't have to do it in your main notebook. Just do it in your book. Discuss and fill the following table given one below. So just do it on your own self. Then to question number 20, give a few examples of public sector activities and explain why the government has taken them up. So a few examples of public sector activities are the provision of water, electricity and some other modes of transport, especially railways. So it is an example of public sector here, which is basically run by the government. The government has taken these up because water and power are needed by everyone. So electricity and water is one of the major needs of a daily thing which needed by everyone, and if the work of providing electricity and water is left to private enterprises, the latter might exploit this opportunity and they sell these at rates which the masses cannot afford. So if it is given to them, to private enterprises, they will raise the rate of the water and the electricity and they will exploit these things to such a number so that normal people who doesn't have much of an income, they cannot afford it. Hence, to ensure that basic amenities like water and power are available for all, the government supplies these at low and affordable rates. Now question number 21, explain how public sectors contribute to the economic development of a nation. So in the following ways public sectors contribute the economic development of a nation. It promotes rapid economic development through the creation and expansion of infrastructure. It creates employment opportunities. It generates financial resources for development. It ensures equality of income and wealth, thus a balanced regional development. It encourages development of small, medium and cottage industries. It ensures easy availability of goods at moderate rate, contributes to community development, to the Human Development Index, health and educational services. Question number 22, the workers in the unorganized sectors need protection on the following issues: wages, safety and health. Explain the examples. So the workers in the unorganized sector need protection. Firstly, wages. Wages is most important. So laborers who are employed as a repair person, vendor, etc. do not have fixed income. They rarely manage to earn their living. They are not employed all through a year. Then safety. Workers in unorganized sector are not provided with safe drinking water or a clean environment. For example, working in mining, chemical industries is hazardous. Health. Leave not guaranteed in case of sickness, but medical facilities not are offered to them like construction workers. Now question number 23 is about a situation. You can do this at your own. I have given you a solution. You can read it out about their income and how it is being calculated. Question number 24 is about you have given a following table here about the GDP given into these sectors in crores from 1950 year and 2011 year. So you have to calculate the share of the three sectors in GDP from 1950 to 3000. The first is in primary sector, it is 57.97%. Please mention the calculation also here. I have not mentioned the calculation. Please mention the calculation. In secondary sector, it is 13.77%. In tertiary sector, it is 28.26%. Second, you have to show the data similarly in a graph. So you have to draw a graph here and you have to show these things in a particularly graph. So you have to paste it in your notebook as well. And what conclusions can we draw from the bar graph? You have made the graph, so you can draw the conclusion with that the share of the tertiary sector in GDP has almost doubled, while that of the primary sector has almost halted because it is half, and the secondary sector has grown by about 10% only in the last 5 years. So this is how you have to do all these questions in a class in your main notebooks as a classwork that I have given you now. Now this is the homework that I want to assign you, that please read the chapter and try to solve the assignment. That was the classwork that I have given you. This is the assignment. You have to do this assignment as a homework and show it to me on my email ID that I have given you, and you will also know about my email ID till now, so I haven't mentioned it here. You already know my mail ID, so please do and give me this homework in my mail ID only, and please mention all the details, your name, roll number, your section. Question number 1 is mention a few activities under the secondary and tertiary sector. So you have to mention few activities which come under the secondary and the tertiary sectors. Then explain the following: GDP and NREGA 2005. Question number 3, you have to differentiate between the public and the private sector. Question 4, the rising importance of the tertiary sector in production in the present time. Discuss. And question number 5, discuss the historical changes in the economic sector. So this is the homework. You have to do this assignment, and please write all the classwork also in your notebook, and please show it to me. Please do it very sincerely. Please don't miss out anything, and please show to me your homework regular basis, on some regular basis. And if you have any queries, you can ask in the comment section or the student inquiry section. Thank you.